Hi, I'm Cindy Halpern, and this is my message for today. On Facebook, you deal with many people. Some people come close to believing in your philosophy and your religion and your beliefs. Some people have some things in common with you, but not everything. And there's some people who have very little in common with you. And the thing is, for me, I want to maintain my authentic self. I don't want to be a phony. I don't want to say things just because it will please people. On the other hand, I don't want to go out of my way to offend people either. And I've been trying to do that middle ground, and I have not been successful at it. I'm obviously very pro-Israel, Zionist. I live in the United States. I'm proud to be an American, but I'm also a Jew. And that balance of being loyal to the United States and loyal to Israel. And I never saw a conflict of interest before. And now with President Obama, who I had voted for twice, but I mean, honestly, I dislike him greatly. His position on Israel goes against everything I believe in. And when I voted for him, he said he would keep Jerusalem united, that wouldn't be an issue. And I just took him at his word, because domestically I'm very liberal, and I believed in some of his policy, and I voted for him. I obviously do believe in universal health care for everyone. Everyone ought to have it. It's not a privilege, it's a right. How can you accomplish anything in life if you're very unhealthy? If you can't see, if you can't hear, if you don't feel well, health becomes your wealth. I digress as usual. But anyhow, of course, I find myself at odds with Obama now, and then I think to myself, well, if I can just not talk about it all the time, I won't offend people. But that doesn't work for me. I go on these sites where there's complaints about politics, and I don't actually start anything with that. I never start any conversation about the president, but then there's a thread on it, and so I contribute to that thread, and then I get all this backlash, and I get upset because I am liberal. I'm very liberal, and people say, oh, these righties, these lefties. I hate these labels. I know it represents the political spectrum, the left to the right and the middle, which I learned in high school, of course. But all these, symbols of, oh, you're left, you're right, and I'm both left and right. On foreign policy, I'm definitely to the right, and domestic policy, I'm extremely to the left. I'm split to the middle. So for someone to label me as a lefty or a righty, it doesn't do justice to my position. If it wasn't for my position on Israel, I'd be extremely to the left. A socialist. I hesitate using that word. In Europe, a Democrat socialist was not a communist. It just fits what I believe in. But in the United States, if you say socialism, they think communism, and it isn't the same thing at all. I mean, socialism is to the left, but it believes in a market economy where the economy's not shut down and just government-based. It's a mixed economy where the government helps people with the electrical and things that they may not be able to manage themselves. But it's not communism. It definitely believes in religious freedom and owning property, for sure. And so I'm really more of a social democrat, which was the designation they had in Vienna when my mom was growing up, and her family were social democrats, and I would say most Jews were social democrats in Vienna, and they were not communist. They, of course, were communists there, but my mom's family obviously didn't want that. They were Jews. My grandfather's father was an Hasidic Jew, so obviously they didn't believe in a restriction of religious freedom. And then in the United States, people say, well, don't talk about politics, and it ends up being about politics, and it ends up being arguments. And my position on it is, if we can respectfully disagree, we're not going to agree on everything. It's just not likely. But if we can respectively disagree, where your position may be different than mine, unless you're a rampant anti-Semite, which I'm not going to respect that, obviously. My mother was a Holocaust survivor. But if you're not a rampant anti-Semite and you want to co-live with me in this country, I don't have a problem with that, even if your platform may be different than mine. I think everyone has the right to their opinion, as long as it's not dangerous, as long as you're not advocating genocide or mass murder or rape or abusing children, as long as it's political and you just have the basic, self-respect for other people, and that's my position on this. But it makes enemies. It makes enemies, people, who disagree with me, which is fine. I don't have a problem with people disagreeing with me. They have a right to their opinion just as much as I have a right to mine. The problem is when they start the name-calling, and that's what happens on some of these sites that I'm on, is the name-calling. And it shouldn't be. And you shouldn't attack the person. You should just say, well, this is what I believe in. And the person says, well, this is what I believe in. That's fine. You believe in this, and I believe in that. And that we, can live together peacefully in this country. And Europe, well, I guess there's a big problem there, that they don't want the Jews to be able to practice religious freedom and be in the synagogue and wear starved David. And that's wrong. And the radical Muslims that are doing this should be arrested or deported. That is not to say that moderate Muslims who coexist with other religious groups can't do that. I have no problem with moderate Muslims. My problem is not with moderate Muslims. They have as much of their right to practice their religion as I do mine. It's only when they try to interfere with me, try to hurt me, then that's where they become radical, and that's when I have a problem with that. But the best thing is if moderate Muslims and Jews and Christians and everybody else can get along, that would be the best thing. But, you have to understand, in the Middle East, religion is not separate. In the United States, church and state are separate. That's the beauty of this country, that your religion is separate. There's no establishment of religion. And that's the beauty of the United States. In other countries, there's not that separation. In the Middle East especially, there is not. And to expect them to have Western standards of that is ridiculous. They don't have those standards, and we need to be realistic that they don't have those standards. And we have to understand their culture and religion and work with it, but it does not mean to say we have to accept genocide, the murder of Jews. That is not acceptable. And for this country to negotiate with Iran at all when they have such extremist views, just not on Jews but on America, is ridiculous. There's no meeting of the minds here, and what we're doing is we're allowing enemies to get nuclear power, and that's ridiculous. They are not our friends. They weren't our friends in '79 when they took our hostages. They're not our friends now. And if you look at their media, if you travel to Iran, if you look at what they're saying about the United States, it's easy to see that. That's the truth. And so here I am talking politics again when I'm talking about trying to stay in the middle. So this is my dilemma, and this is just how it is for me. Thanks for listening.